Hopefully they stay classy. All right, what's going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to another video this week on the Conscious Approach channel. Appreciate everybody for supporting. If you like the videos, definitely be sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, all that good stuff. So we are going to talk about. We're going to talk real quick about Ja Morant. So for anyone who is unaware, Ja Morant, who's a rising star in the NBA, recently was on a podcast in which he was asked how he felt about Michael Jordan, and he basically was paying homage to Jordan, saying that he would have loved to have played against him. However, what's kind of making news in terms of that interview was when he said that he would cook Michael Jordan. Now, obviously, this gets a lot of people in a tizzy. You have a lot of Michael Jordan fanatics out there who refuse to entertain the notion that anybody would be able to compete with Michael Jordan on any level, whether that's beating him in a one-on-one, having a better career than him, being a greater overall player than him, so on and so forth. I tend to lean on that side. However, I'm not as fanatical as some others who just refuse to even entertain the idea that someone could possibly even be in his cipher. But you would imagine that it's even crazier for someone who is so early in his career as Ja Morant to express such sentiments. So he was on his podcast, and he said that he would cook Michael Jordan. And, predictably, people went crazy. So we'll just talk about this real quick after we see how Ja Morant delivered this message.
But if you could have talked about Jordan in that moment, what would you have said?
Thank you. I feel like he, the reason a lot of people, want to play the game of basketball, to even, be there with them is, something I didn't see myself doing, as a kid, but having the opportunity to be there, talk to him, introduce myself, and, just have that conversation with him. I don't know what I would have said, but yeah. I wish I played in his generation.
Yeah. You wish you would have played in his generation.
Yeah.
Why?
I heard he was like just how he, go about the game, just that mindset he had.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to play against him. So.
Yeah. This time you're not saying I would cook to.
I would cook him too.
You would cook Michael Jordan?
Nobody got more confidence than 12.
That's what you're supposed to say. I get it.
You should.
Yeah.
I'm never go and say nobody gonna be one-on-one with you that day.
Yeah.
I don't care what it is, what sport it is, soccer. Who's the best player in soccer? We can
play. So, for the most part, he was being respectful, but people went kind of crazy a little bit. And part of this, let's be fair here. Part of this has to do with the fact that the media machine in the month of July is typically searching for content because, NFL training camp hasn't started yet. College football hasn't started yet. And the NBA draft ended like a few weeks ago. There's really not much going on in the world of sports, especially when we're in these off summers where there's no like USA basketball or no like Olympic basketball or something like that. So the content machine needs stuff to talk about. And so they pick up stuff like this. I think during the regular season or in the fall when football is fully going and all of that, this probably doesn't pick up as much traction. But be that as it may, it picked up a ton of traction because people just, went beside themselves because he said what he said. And, it started this whole age-old debate. People just seem to have this insatiable desire to talk about Jordan and who Jordan may or may not have been better than and eras and all of this kind of crazy stuff. So Ja said what he said. He said no one has more confidence than 12. I think it's a little weird when people refer to themselves in the third person, but it is what it is. So, obviously not getting too deep into it. What do you think about what Ja Morant said about, cooking Jordan if he played during his era?
I honestly feel so I agree with you in the sense that, the media or people in general, because the streets had a fun time with this as well. So I think that that's an angle definitely when it comes to lack of things to talk about in the sports world. However, it's still Ja Morant, and Ja Morant is today's Allen Iverson, as far as I'm concerned. As far as what the youth is concerned, I'm not comparing skill level or none of that stuff. I just think that he's just a modern Ja Morant in the sense that he embodies the new generation of kids that are coming up, and he represents them in a way that they feel like, hey, he's one of us kind of deal. So he definitely has a cult following, and it's only growing. So I think him as a talent overall, I feel like he's extremely talented. I think he's awesome. Um, I think he's buying into this stuff a little bit. That's a slippery slope. Hopefully, he doesn't get lost in the sauce. But like you said, referring to yourself in third person, it is for me a little cause for concern there. Of for real, of getting
Yeah,
lost in the sauce
yeah,
because like what is that about? But in order for him to have the competitive edge that he needs, he feels as though he has to go there. And so, and again, I don't mind that line of thinking. It's just that hopefully you leave enough breadcrumbs to get back to whoever you were before you decided to take that journey. And hopefully you don't get lost in that and refer to yourself as 12 or any other type of way. You know what I'm saying? And but as far as when it comes down to the gameplay, Jordan would beat him because Jordan is crazier than him. And I think the thing is with Jordan and Kobe, uh, LeBron's not crazy. Um, Jordan was crazy, and Kobe wasn't as crazy as Jordan. And I think the reason why Jordan was so good at what he was doing is he was literally a sociopath on the basketball court, as far as I'm concerned.
yeah.
And
That's
from
a good way of putting it. Yeah,
Yeah, and so from everything that I've heard from all the Jordan stories, I really think that bro was he was just on another level in a sense of in his mental. And Ja would be so busy trying to show him up, and Jordan would be too busy trying to destroy him. So even with Ja's modern skill set, I still think Jordan would have schooled him. Cook, strong term.
yeah.
He would have got by him a couple times, but after the second time, Jordan would put an end to that. I feel so. What about you?
Yeah. I think you put it well. Jordan was sociopathic in a basketball sense. I
Right.
think the closest person that comes to that is Kobe, and I would agree that Kobe was not as sociopathic as Jordan, but Kobe was also famously sociopathic. But there was a difference in between Jordan and Kobe in that Jordan really did care about making you feel small. Like
Right.
Jordan really relished in destroying your ego,
Right.
whereas Kobe just did whatever he could to beat you and left it on the basketball court. Jordan kind of took it personally,
Right.
and it wasn't because other people came at him in a personal way. It was just the way that his brain was maniacal like that.
Hmm.
John Morant isn't close to that. I don't think any player today is close to that because players today are too narcissistic to become that maniacal. And not all of it is their fault. I think when you are living in the 24/7 media, world, and you're living in a world where everyone has the ability to create their own narratives and platforms through social media, you can basically craft your own story, and you don't have to rely on newspapers and ESPN and Fox anymore. You can just tell it how you want. And because the media machine is so beholden to the individual athlete, especially NBA players. NBA players are probably the most front facing individual sports stars. Football is the most popular overall sport, but in terms of individual athletes, NBA players are probably the most popular individuals. Because these, the media and sport and journalists and all of these other outlets are so beholden to the individual athletes, they don't really get checked on a lot of the stuff that they say. Rather, they get praised for it. So John Moran can come out and say, I'll cook Michael Jordan, and the media will actually entertain whether he'll cook Michael Jordan. When in reality, I don't think it's even close. Like Ja Morant's like 6'3", 6'4". He's really athletic, but Jordan was 6'6" with like a 7-foot plus wingspan, more athletic than Ja Morant, in my opinion, and had more of a well-rounded overall game, even at the same stage. And so Ja Morant is in what, year 2, year 3, whatever Ja Morant is.
Yeah, 3.
Like Jordan in year 2 was averaging 37 a game. So like, even if you compare their relative stages in their careers, Ja Morant's not cooking Michael Jordan. I actually think it's the other way around. And I think the further removed we get from Jordan's physical prime, I think the more we tend, especially with the youthful society, to kind of forget how disgusting Jordan was. And I'm not like, I do personally, full disclosure, personally, I do think Michael Jordan is the greatest player ever, but I'm also not fanatical. So if you wanted to say somebody else is better, I'm not going to lose sleep like a lot of other people. But at the same time, a spade is a spade. Jordan was insane, and Ja Morant's not cooking Jordan. But this is new media, and new media basically, attention is currency. So the idea is say whatever salacious, outlandish stuff that you can say so that you can get talked about on social media and on Get Up and First Take and Undisputed, because in this day and age, all publicity is good publicity, especially when it comes to sports, unless you're dealing with something crazy like what Deshaun Watson is going through. So, this is the new media world. Say crazy stuff, get airplay, and, let the chips fall where they may. No one's going to, Ja Morant's not going to take hits for this, but cooking Jordan, that's a bit crazy. Like that's going a bit too far. I do think that he's feeding into his own narcissism, but I don't know how you can avoid in this day and age developing that sense about yourself when, all you have to do is just have a few highlight plays and average, 25 plus for a week. And First Take is going to talk about how you're a top 3 MVP candidate. So, this is kind of the way this stuff works now. So, when you're in that echo chamber, as I like to say, and you hear that about yourself enough, sure, you feel comfortable enough to get on a podcast and say that you'll cook Jordan. But trust me, Ja Morant's not cooking Jordan. Jordan's cooking Ja Morant. And I don't even think it's close, quite frankly.
It's not, and it's just not. And there were, and this is no knock on Ja. I think he's a talented cat, and I think his best is yet to come. So, but when it comes to like tier 2 athletes, back when Jordan was playing, would cook Ja Morant. Sorry. And I I don't care, bro. Like Clyde Drexler would have went to work on that guy. And Clyde would have gave him problems. There's so many guys. I can go down a list of guys that were really,
even guys like Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley was about the same height. If you believe the listed heights, they're about the same height. But Charles Barkley was way wider, and he could score from anywhere on the court, and he was a better defender and rebounder. So, the whole cooking thing, people just need to kind of calm down. Well, people, I get it. I get the climate. I understand why this kind of stuff happens. But, the whole cooking thing is kind of outlandish.
It's a bit much.
Yeah, and I agree. Yeah, Drexler. It's a bunch of other guys that you can kind of throw in there, too. So, cooking is
It's a strong word.
But either way, Ja Morant's best days are ahead of him. I think the media kind of runs a little wild with this stuff, though. Like the nature of this content machine and already wanting to call a guy a superstar and talk about how he should be an MVP candidate. His team went like 18-1 when he was hurt. Mm-hmm. How much of an MVP can you be when your team doesn't lose any games, even when you're not playing? Mm-hmm. And like in the playoffs, when they were playing against the Warriors and he went down, the next game they beat the Warriors by 50 in the playoffs. So but this is this soundbite stuff, and he's top 5 and MVP this and superstar that. I think real people who follow the sport just kind of get annoyed and tone deaf with stuff like that, which is what causes us to also get annoyed and tone deaf whenever people like him say stuff like that.
Yeah, very premature with all of his stuff. I mean, it's on the way, and
Yeah.
the media is like overhyping. How can you overhype somebody that's good? But they're doing it,
Yeah.
and now I think that also plays into him calling himself in the third person.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, I completely agree. All right, so next up, we got Amber Rose. Amber Rose recently was on a podcast, and somehow, some way, the conversation of religion came up and all of this kind of stuff. I don't know how that came up. This is not going to be a diatribe on religion, but more so just, analyzing her and what she had to say. So they asked her if she believed in God, and this is basically what she had to say. Spoiler alert: she doesn't believe in God, but here was her delivery on her opinion as to why she doesn't believe in God.
Do I believe in God? What do you mean by God? Like a
God.
like a higher power?
Sure.
That was like, here's people and here's Earth and here's the planets? No.
So what do you? So if you don't believe in God, what do you exactly believe in then?
I more so believe in science than like an invisible entity named God was like, let there be light. It just seems far-fetched to me.
Really? So have you ever been to church before?
Yeah.
And then when you go to church, you just don't be feeling it. You be like, damn, y'all be talking like, how do you
I just don't believe Jesus like died and like came back to life for my sins. I just believe that's crazy. That's
all right. So that'll probably rub a lot of people who do believe that the wrong way. I don't think it should, because I think that's just an opinion that you don't agree with, so it shouldn't make you mad. But a lot of people are sensitive these days, and so they just get offended by stuff. But I would imagine people who do believe in God and do believe that Jesus died on the cross for their sins probably are offended by what she had to say. Whether you believe in God or not, to me, is irrelevant to this. What I kind of want to talk about, what I find interesting, is that I think that there is a correlation between someone who has conducted her life in the way that Amber Rose has and the fact that she will make that kind of statement. So, you can believe in God or not, I don't care. You can believe in Jesus or not, I don't care. But I'm just looking at Amber Rose and, her being the champion for slut shaming, the slut walks, the Kanye West relationship, the tattoo on her forehead, the embracing of modern promiscuous culture, the being a part of this whole thottish industry. She was basically one of the originators of like thottish behavior, thought culture, and the glorification of it, like the mainstreaming of it, to where we say, it used to be a situation where we said that's a certain segment of our culture. We acknowledge that it exists, but we can all pretty much agree that in the grand scheme of things, probably best to not emulate that behavior. Then it slowly transitioned to it's growing, but we still don't want to emulate it. That transitioned to, okay, now we're accepting it, but we don't want to emulate it. But now it's just full blown, we should emulate it because that's the cool thing to do. It's the right thing to do. Well, men have been, whores for all of existence. So why can't women? Why can't we embrace our, why can't we embrace our inner, to use her term, slut, don't slut shame me because I want to live this way. And it's all to the good. But what I find fascinating is the fact that, this is a person who has championed all of these things, and she also doesn't believe in God. I think that's an interesting correlation. Not that I think you should, again, let me reiterate, I'm not saying you should believe in God. I don't care. Believe in whatever you want to believe in. We still cool and rocking at the end of the day. You can believe whatever you want. But I think it's an interesting correlation between how her public-facing persona has played out and the fact that she makes statements like that, if any of that made sense.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. And me personally, I was thinking more along the lines of the reason why she doesn't believe in God. Because if you don't believe in God, then you also don't believe in the devil. So it's a hand-in-hand exchange. You don't believe in the divinity aspect of things, because if you believe in God, then you have to believe in the devil, kind of a thing. And so, not necessarily, but generally speaking. And so for her, if she does away with religion, then it kind of gives her an excuse to do what she does. If you are already living in a sense of shame, in a sense of, oh, everything that the Bible says about what I do, I'm going to hell. I don't think I'm going to hell. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in these power dynamics, because what they're suggesting is the life that I'm living, I'm doomed to hell. And so she's since she's not comfortable with that, then she's not comfortable with religion and with God and all of these concepts. So I think that it's interesting that you say that, because I think that's the very reason why she doesn't, because of the guilt that she has, whether consciously or subconsciously, of the lifestyle that she lives. Back in my thoughting days, when I was out there just trying to play the field and get numbers and just have a team and all this other stuff, and I was out there just thoughting it out, I was feeling you lose yourself in that. There's not really any redeeming qualities outside of having good stories to tell. The main thing that you develop from that is more trauma. You date people, you deal with people, you don't build genuine connections, you really don't trust the people you're around. So there's all kinds of factors that play into living such a lifestyle. And I realized that the way that I could achieve such a lifestyle and be a superstar in that game is I have to be out of my mind. And so for her, who has taken on this persona of living this lifestyle of being the queen slut, and I'm not calling her a slut, she calls herself a slut.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm not trying to be disrespectful. This is what she coined herself as. And so when you live a life where you're a self-proclaimed slut, then I'm pretty sure she has, escapades and all these other situations where she's just doing whatever, doing whoever or whatever. And so by living that life, there's not a shame because you believe in a biblical text. There's a shame of, I don't have a genuine connection in my life. It's a shame because am I really worth it to somebody? And then when you have all of these things floating around your head, they cause stress, they cause anxiety, and all this other stuff. So honestly, I don't think, and this is the problem with, and I'm not trying to be grandiose or nothing like that, but this is the problem with thought now, is that what it does is you take on, and you hear people in the church or whatever, and they say, oh, when you have sex with this person, you're sharing spirits and all this stuff. Me, I personally think that what they're getting at with those things is that you take on various levels of stressors that you may not be aware that you're taking on by living a life of not being complete or feeling complete. So with those things, you develop these stressors. You start thinking of all kinds of ways to justify the lifestyle you're living. And then if everybody around you is like, God said, God said, God said, and then you go, but then living this life of sin, the woman goes, or in this case, Amber Rose, I think she takes a step back and go, hey, look, I will not feel this level of stress if I don't believe I'm going to hell. And I'm not going to hell because there is no deity above me that's going to send me there. So I think that honestly, this whole exchange is honestly kind of a revealing way to me that she feels ashamed, low key, about the life she lives. Psychoanalysis there, but I think
That's an interesting way to put it. It's what I wonder, the chicken or the egg question, and I don't know the answer to this question. Like, what came first, her amoral tendencies or her lack of faith? Like, you have to wonder which one, because clearly one of those things created the other. So it's like, which one came first? Like, I find it difficult to believe it. It's like when we have the whole men and women dating and relationship conversation, and we talk about women being women lacking in work ethic or lacking the desire to self-improve because they think that their presence is enough. And so the question that I always have is, okay, well, are they genetically predisposed to be in that way? Or are there certain environmental stressors that facilitated an environment in which they became that way? And I tend to lean on the side of, nature versus nurture. And so I do think that some people just kind of are what they are. And it's interesting to think about. But I do think that there's a correlation between how she's lived her life and the fact that she makes those types of statements. And I don't think that her lack of belief in any kind of religion preceded her nature. I think her nature preceded. I think you're correct. I think her nature preceded the lack of faith, and being able to say, "Well, I don't believe this sort of thing," allowed her to reconcile her behavior. Yeah, It's just interesting to see because it's interesting to see somebody actually say that on camera like that. But also, I kind of think that you might be giving her too much credit. I don't think she's knowingly that psychologically aware of what it is that she's doing and what it means. I just think she just is. I think she just is. I'm not saying that I think what you're saying is right. I just don't think she's cognizant of that. That's my personal. I don't think she's cognizant that way.
And that's fair. And I think her thing is more of I think hers is more reactionary of people coming to her saying, "You're going to hell for doing this. You're going to hell for it. You're going to." So. And then there's a response of, "What? Right. No, I ain't going to hell."
Yeah. It's a fight or flight thing. It's like when she was jumping from rapper to rapper and making her rounds, being an industry slower, and people were criticizing her for it. How was she able to kind of make herself feel better about that? Okay, well, let me embrace my slutness. So there's nothing you can say to hurt me because I know that I'm a slut. Rather, what I'm going to try to do is circumvent the system and make being a slut okay. Make being a slut cool. Make being a slut something that you should aspire to. I'm going to deconstruct our traditional notions of what constitutes slutness so that we can be just as okay with calling a woman a slut as we are with calling, a man a pimp or a hustler or whatever. The two things should be glorified and praised in the same way. At least that's the mentality of people like her.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Okay, so next up we want to talk about LeBron. LeBron's making a lot of noise, man. So first we talked about, I think it was in a video last week, we talked about how LeBron and Russell Westbrook were on opposite ends of the court at an NBA Summer League Laker game. And there was a lot of speculation as to whether there's some bad blood going on. Is LeBron working with the Lakers actively to try to trade Westbrook? Does Westbrook know what's happening there? So that was a week ago. Since then, LeBron has scored 42 points at a Drew League game, and he has been on an episode of his show, The Shop on HBO, where he's dropping gems and sound bites so that everybody can speculate as to whether he's talking about any specific people. And on top of that, Russell Westbrook fired his agent because apparently, and this is according to verified sources, this was reported like on ESPN and whatnot. Apparently, Russell Westbrook's agent wanted Russell Westbrook to stay with the Lakers because that's the best chance that you have to be successful, reinvigorate your image, and make the most money by accepting your third wheel role and just kind of buying in, falling in line, and being a soldier in LeBron's army to help win LeBron his 5th championship. And, reportedly Russell Westbrook wasn't with that. He wanted to be traded, or he wanted to be released. He wanted to get traded from the Lakers. And his agent was like, no, I don't think that's the best thing for you to do. So Westbrook, being the impetuous individual that he is, fired his agent. So that's just what's happened in the last week since that whole NBA Summer League game. And so LeBron was on The Shop, and Maverick Carter asked him a question about culture and winning. And this was what LeBron had to say when answering that question about culture and winning and sacrificing.
Does culture significantly impact how a team comes to success?
Definitely culture first, and then if you can blend that with the talent and the right pieces, it literally is the gateway to being successful for a long period of time. I could go back to when I was drafted at 18 and made my debut with Cleveland. You know, there wasn't any culture. You know, and that's no knock on anybody that was there or whatever the case may be, but there was no culture. And I feel like it was my job as an 18-year-old to try to build the culture, which is kind of unfair, but it is what it is. You know, to try to build the culture, to make it seem like, or make it feel like it could be something special. But yeah, like you just said it, like the culture is the number one thing.
Fair or not fair, do you love that pressure at this point in your career? Like win or bust. I don't care about scoring title, I don't care about anything. It's win or bust. Do you like that pressure?
Yeah, I'm obsessed with it. With win or bust. And what makes me have sleepless nights is when you don't have everyone that feels the same way on your club.
Your club.
I know, right? Who talks like that?
Lebanon does. That's what does that.
See, that's the stuff that gets on my nerves with him. Like, who talks like that? But anyway, correction, that was not Maverick Carter that asked him about that. Maverick Carter's there, but he didn't ask him that question. And also, like, and this is an aside, but, you know, the barber was there cutting up Maverick Carter when he was done. It looked like Maverick Carter did not get a cut. So I don't know what's going on there. But that's just something that I noticed because I'm just crazy with this haircut stuff. But yeah, I don't know. Like, it didn't really look like Maverick got a cut at all. But yeah, so what were your thoughts about what LeBron had to say about sleepless nights and it bothering him when other players on the club don't feel the same way? And by the way, there's speculation that when LeBron was saying that he was sending a subliminal message to either Anthony Davis or Russell Westbrook. That's a speculation. But what were your thoughts on what LeBron had to say?
I kind of agree with him. So, and I agree with him in the aspect of it is tough to try to win and build something where people around you don't care. And I can just attest to being at work and just working out and just doing my thing. There's a task on the docket, and okay, let me go do it. And then there's other people around that treat it like a group project, and they're just there for the grade. And so if you're LeBron and you're doing all this extra work and you just got guys showing up for the grade, or the championship, for instance, right? I think that would be frustrating to a guy who takes his profession very seriously. And so LeBron being the guy the guy is an absolute physical specimen. It is ridiculous how the guy looks right now. And he's damn near 40 and he is chiseled out. And so that only comes from working out. Like, the guy is just going to work. So his shot now is better than it's ever been in his entire life. And the guy's just a bucket now. He was doing other things before, like, just bullying his way to the basket. And I didn't respect that. But the guy's fadeaway game is crazy right now. And his everything. And that came from due diligence, putting in work. Then you got Westbrook, who is, hitting nothing but backboard, airballing, throwing the ball out of bounds. And then you go, how are you doing this? And so for me, that has to come from a lack of due diligence. That has to come from a lack of passion. That has to come from a lack of wanting to put in the work to not shoot air balls. And so I can't really speak on AD, but AD does have an air about himself that does look like he isn't really all the way bought in. I can't call what that's coming from, but he doesn't look like he's all the way bought in. He looks like he's just chilling out there. And when you have those two guys, and those are the guys that you're supposed to lean on to make a championship run, I could see how that frustrates somebody who takes this profession so damn seriously. So I kind of agree with him. I don't agree with Club, but I agree with him.
Yeah, yeah. When he talks like that, I just roll my eyes.
Yeah,
So yeah, I'm with you. Like I am a LeBron detractor, but when he says something that makes sense, I'm not gonna deny it. And I understand it because I come from a similar place mentally. Like I have been in several situations personally, and you mentioned work. So I've been in several situations, and I continue to be in situations, even now in my professional life, where I find myself quickly frustrated when I feel like individuals who I have to work with in order to be successful in my job or just in life in general aren't approaching the task at hand with the level of perfectionism and attention to detail that I feel is a baseline requirement for being successful. And it's like, I'm not asking for you to be a master, but I do feel as though it is inherent in every grown adult who wants to be successful at something to adhere to a baseline standard of perfectionism and work ethic. And whenever I don't encounter that in an individual who I have to depend on in order to be successful myself, it pisses me off. So I completely get where LeBron is coming from with that. I've been there. We talked about this before in the past. I have been in situations where I've worked in environments where I felt like, I was by far and away the best at what it is that I did and the most consistent. So not only did I do what I did at the highest level from a performance standpoint, but I also performed that way at a high level consistently. And so I never said, hey, man, you need to be as good as me. But what I did say was, hey, man, think about what you're doing. Like, attention to detail is a skill that you can develop. You're not going to be as fast or as strong or as quick as me. But in terms of attention to detail and judgment, that's something that you can get better at. And if you cared enough about being successful at this, you would get better at that. And whenever I encounter someone who didn't see it that way, we just didn't click. It rubbed me the wrong way. And it would cause me to develop a bad disposition towards that person and the situation as a whole. And what that would often result in is people thinking that I was a bad guy. So like, I'm now a bad guy or I have a bad attitude because I have that disposition about myself. When really it's like, hey man, all I'm asking for is for people to kind of get on a particular level so that we can all be successful. The difference between me and a person like LeBron, and this is where I roll my eyes whenever LeBron says that kind of stuff, is despite the fact that in a vacuum what he's saying is correct, I think that he is still preoccupied too much with being liked. And it's like, if you're going to be the maniacal person who thinks that everybody should be on your page and is obsessed with winning, and if you have sleepless nights because you have people who are on your club who aren't as obsessed with winning as you, then you would also not care as much about those individuals liking you. And oftentimes what I find with LeBron is that he tries to toe this line between being maniacal but still being likable. And oftentimes those two notions are counterintuitive. Like, if you're going to be the maniacal individual, you have to relinquish this need to be so liked all the time. And I still feel like LeBron wants friends and allies and wants people to like him. Like, if he was talking about Westbrook or Anthony Davis in that clip, and I'm not saying that he is, I'm just, painting a scenario. Let's just say for kicks that he was talking about them. He's so passive aggressive. He'll never say that to them directly, which is what guys like Jordan and Kobe would do. Rather, he would do it on his TV show and then go to the Lakers and try to create a workaround situation to get those guys traded. And then make it seem as though he had nothing to do with it. When it's like, if you're really about that life, own it and communicate it to them in person and get rid of this need to be this likable guy. But I feel like LeBron is just so obsessed, and he's so obsessed with being liked and being LeBron, the benevolent social justice warrior, and being liked and being, worshipped for this, for the player empowerment guy that he is, that he says that on one end, but then on the other end, he's passive aggressive and he won't actually be confrontational. When in order to be that level of success, if you want to win 5 or 6 championships, you're going to have to be confrontational at some point. And that is proven. Like, this isn't my opinion. It's a verifiable fact. And so that's the kind of stuff that kind of makes me feel like he contradicts himself sometimes, which is what causes me to kind of criticize him whenever he makes these types of statements. But overall, what he said, I get and I agree with him. I just kind of feel like he is someone who cares too much about being liked at times, which runs afoul of his mission to be as successful as he claims that he wants to be. And it's like, dude, if you were really having sleepless nights, like if it were me, after about my 10th sleepless night, I get so tired of having I get so sick of having sleepless nights. I go to the guys who I felt like were holding me back, and I'd be like, bro, you need to either get on board or get the hell out of here because I'm tired of not sleeping at night. But, for him, it kind of seems like he's content with having all the sleepless nights. And it's like, okay, bro, pick one. Either you're maniacal and you don't want to have sleepless nights anymore, so you need to be a little more confrontational and care less about being liked, or stop talking about being maniacal and having sleepless nights and just accept what comes with the territory of being the likable superstar that you are. Pick one.
I agree with that. Didn't think about that, but my thing is, and I think the point that you're touching on is similar to the Jordan conversation that we had earlier, and you mentioned Jordan in this conversation. And so when dealing with Michael Jordan, like we said, like he was a sociopath, honestly, on and off the court. The guy was just absolutely out of his mind. And so since he was that way, you're absolutely right. He would have called the guy out. He would have threw the guy under the bus in a figurative way at practice. Like, he just would have called people out. And the thing about LeBron, and that's why I mentioned that, the tier was, Jordan, Kobe, and then honestly, like, LeBron's not even on this list when it comes to just insane, crazy basketball players. I think he's more insane when it comes to taking care of his body and preparation and practice. I think that's where he edges out everybody. But the thing is with him, his overall personality set is, I do agree with you. He has this thing where he wants to be liked. And that part of him that wants to be liked does avoid confrontation. It does avoid the things that, a leader really would do and say. I hear all kinds of compliments from guys that played with him, of how sharp his IQ is, how this, how that. But the one thing I haven't heard from anybody that played with him, great players, in between, bench players, anybody, is that how much of a competing animal he is. And the only thing that I hear about is, again, his IQ, how much he knows about things, the stuff he knows about the other team's players, and all that stuff's cool. But when it comes to actually just being out of your mind and saying, fucking, let's win basketball games, like chewing people out on the sidelines, he'll do that. But he's chewing people out that he can chew out. So he used to go crazy on Mario Chalmers when he played for the Heat. I mean, he just absolutely just sliding on that guy. And I was like, Chalmers, stand up for yourself, dude. And then, but now LeBron's just having his way, just saying whatever he wants to him. And so he's a very interesting guy. And I think that the interviews that he's having and the stuff that he says, I do feel like it's a little backhanded. I do feel as though it's a little passive aggressive. I agree with all of those things. But at the same time, LeBron is so LeBron, so Jordan got a brand for being Michael Jordan. LeBron has a brand as a lifestyle, and these are two different things. So Jordan didn't care about corporate appearance or none of that. He wasn't in the media trying to be a savior or nothing like that. LeBron is. So since he has all of this philanthropy, building schools, talking about social justice, being an ambassador for the NBA when nobody asked him to, all these other things. And when you have all of these hats that he's wearing, he's a politician. And so when he's being a politician, he has to talk out of both sides of his mouth. He has to say these things that come off a little off-putting to people who have a genuine, straightforward approach to life. Mm-hmm. And so when he says the stuff that he says, I personally give him a pass in the sense that he's playing politician. Whether he should or not, that's one thing or another. But he's playing politician because of his overall legacy and brand, and everything he says is about his legacy and brand. And so when he says words like club, he's giving talking points that will be given at some type of board meeting or whatever. And he's talking like that to the masses so they can digest it and ingest it in a way that's very tolerable. It's not, on first glance, it's not too off-putting. It's like, yeah, I can see that. Oh, yeah, I could. And so by being this guy who's always trying to appease, being this guy that's always trying to make sure he's saying the right thing, all right, he often comes off disingenuous. He often comes off as passive-aggressive. And, yeah, I'm also, I've seen him get coaches fired. Right. He tried to get Spoelstra fired.
Right.
So this guy has a record of this type of behavior. I can do some psychoanalysis on this too, but I won't. But still, I just think that the lack of him having, he said it, he got drafted at 18 right in the NBA just playing. And before that, single mom situation, high school, coaches, everybody loved him, blah, blah, blah. And for him to not have, I would say, outside looking in, I don't know who was really in his life, but I don't know if he really had that figure in his life that actually did stand on those morals, that actually did come straight to somebody and not get passive aggressive, especially if your primary caregiver is your mom. And so he might have developed some of these tactics and ways of being just from growing up. And Jordan, the sociopath that he is a thing where he kicks it into gears that LeBron could never. Jordan would have just absolutely morally just shitted off whatever Westbrook was doing. There's no excuse for his missing shots like that.
I don't even think Westbrook would have made it through the season.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Yeah.
I don't think so either. And so I'm sorry, bro. If you are an NBA player, you have to hit the rim. Nah, bro. And he's just slinging it. It's like, are you even practicing?
Yeah.
It's really concerning.
Yeah.
And
well,
yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I've told you what I think about that with Westbrook. I think he's in his head, but he's so bullheaded that even if he's in his head, he will do everything he can to make you think that he's not affected mentally. But because I've been there, hooping like that, whenever you're shooting air balls, or if you're shooting baseline jumpers and it's hitting the side of the backboard, whenever you're missing that badly, that's mental. There's nothing mechanical about that. That is all mental. So his basketball head right now is scrambled eggs. And it's coming through in how he plays. Like I think the Westbrook thing is completely mental. But I see what I hate doing. When I brought up Jordan, I wasn't trying to make that comparison because I think it's unreasonable to say Jordan wouldn't do. Like, I hate it when people do that. Jordan wouldn't have done that. Jordan doesn't do it. Like, stop it with the Jordan stuff. It's like the Tom Brady comparisons. Tom Brady is one of one. Stop comparing other quarterbacks, NFL players. Stop making comparisons to Tom Brady. It's not practical Tom Brady was a once in a lifetime. We will never have another NFL player win 7 Super Bowls. It's not going to happen. So stop it with the Tom Brady stuff and stop it with the Jordan stuff. So I wasn't trying to say be like Mike per se. But what I am saying is when it comes to team sports and you being the person who's quote unquote obsessed with winning, which is what you said you are, then it behooves you to be comfortable with confronting situations and individuals that you perceive to be an inhibition towards your goal. And I think LeBron is not comfortable with that. And I'm not saying that that's it's okay. Not everybody can be 100%, super A1 in every particular personality trait. But if you're going to say stuff like you have sleepless nights when people aren't on board on your club, you're going to have to be able to back that up with words. And thus far, I think LeBron has not been somebody who's able to do that. And you don't got to be like Jordan to do that. Like Giannis reportedly is somebody who gets on guys. Now he's a fun-loving, lovable guy that people like in the public eye. But when it comes to behind closed doors and practices and other guys he plays with, he is reportedly somebody who'll get after teammates. And I don't think that he's maniacal in the sense that Jordan was, but you just have to be comfortable with confrontation. So maybe it's less about like, demoralizing people and more so just about being comfortable with the notion of being confrontational. And it's not even confrontational from the standpoint that you're going to punch a guy or fight a guy or get into an argument, but you have to be willing to confront the things that you feel are holding you back. And I feel like LeBron's that's never been an aspect of his personality. And, you can be right in terms of the origins of that. I wouldn't dispute any of that, but I think the book is out on it. And I think that it's safe to say he is somebody who's just never been comfortable with doing anything like that. And it is what it is. I just kind of think that you have to be comfortable with confrontation. If some of those are sound bites, in my opinion, if you have the history throughout your career that you have, but you still feel the need to say that kind of stuff. Like, if you have, like I said, after my 10th sleepless night, I'm going to confront the thing that's causing me to not sleep so that I can eradicate it so that I can sleep better. But it's like LeBron kind of tries to be a politician, to use your words. And yeah, he is, he's not a businessman. He's a businessman, and I get it. There's an interesting it kind of compares to like the whole, years back, Kevin Hart was talking about why he can't do what Dave Chappelle does. Because essentially Dave Chappelle has created a niche where he can be successful in the comedy space and say whatever he wants. And Kevin Hart was like, I can't do that because I got this movies and these production companies and I employ people. So the minute that I say something that's controversial or that can be perceived as disagreeable, people don't like it, and people come from my head and want me to get fired, I'm going to have to answer for that because I'm responsible for other people. I'm an entity. I'm not just Kevin Hart, the individual. So I can't do what Dave Chappelle does. This is kind of similar. Like LeBron can't do what Jordan did. As big as Jordan was, I agree, Jordan was not an entity. He was just a global superstar. And LeBron is like this entity, so he can't move the same way. But for me, listening to his words, I just roll my eyes when he talks about, being obsessed with winning in that way. Because I think in order to be obsessed with winning and I'm not trying to slight his career. He's won 4 championships. He's done a lot. He's one of the greatest players ever, obviously. But when you talk like that, you're going to draw the comparisons to others who are willing to do what it takes from a personality standpoint in order to get there. And I think that there are degrees of separation between where LeBron is with that and where other guys are with that. Even if you look at guys like Jimmy Butler, you don't got to go as far as Jordan. You can go Jimmy Butler. Like I said, you can go Giannis. There's other guys who are willing to kind of put their money where their mouth is in that way.
Agreed.
Lastly, we are going to talk about Teddy Bridgewater. So Teddy Bridgewater recently made some interesting comments where basically he was, kind of saying he basically put out a message where he wanted to let NFL players know that they need to do better in terms of the image that they portray because there's kids watching them. Basically, what Teddy Bridgewater was getting at was, NFL players need to do a better job of, stop trying to live up to this, fake gangster persona because it's not real. 98% of the players in the NFL aren't actually gangsters. It's okay to be a cool guy. It's okay to be a nice guy. And we need to do a better job of painting that picture because we don't want to, and I'm paraphrasing here, I don't think it's necessarily a good thing that younger people and kids who look up to pro athletes and NFL players in particular see the way that we act in terms of embracing a gangster facade or a tough guy persona and have them emulate, what these players, basically kids would emulate that. And Teddy Bridgewater doesn't think that's necessarily the best thing in the world. So Teddy Bridgewater, he took to his Instagram to make a post, and see if I could put this up here real quick. So that everybody can see, what Teddy Bridgewater said. So this is Teddy Bridgewater's Instagram post right here. He said, "Tired of seeing football players portray this tough guy image or pretend he's a gangster. You went to school, attended those classes, and some even got their college degree. Now you might have 1.5% of professional football players that's on that, but the remaining 98.5% are only football tough, quote unquote. So don't wait till you inherit this legal money from the league to decide you want to be tough or portray a street image because it's kids that's looking up to everything we do. Plus it's someone sitting in a cell or posted in the hood who might have been just as hood as you that would advise you otherwise. Kids, don't be fooled. You can play ball, do the right thing, and they still gonna accept you. Look at me, I'm far from perfect, but I chose the ball route, but I can still go to the hood and post up and it's all love. I still keep the same 3 dudes around me. My people accept me for making all the right decisions and not falling victim or being tricked by the false image you see on IG from a lot of ball players. Choose your path. Can't do both, though." So that was what Teddy Bridgewater had to say. What were your thoughts on Teddy Bridgewater's comments? Obviously, there's a lot of levels that we can go, but just on the surface, his comments about that.
I think that he's spot on. I love everything that he said because it's absolutely 100% true. And this is a problem that is not just in the NFL, but we'll stick with the NFL. And this is a phenomenon that that honestly I'm over it. For a guy who was raised in a 2-parent household, taught to respect elders, taught to follow the rules, got good grades in school, graduated from college myself, and I was still trying to be around the wrong people. I was still trying to be in the wrong places. And it was due to my consumption of what people call entertainment. I don't call it entertainment anymore. I call it mind control.
Yeah.
And so I was, after having some life experiences that I don't wish on anybody, it comes to a point where you go, what the hell am I doing? And who the hell am I? And why the hell am I engaging in these? I'm still me. I'm still a cool dude. But at the same time, there's this weird chip on my shoulder that I have to be this character or this tough guy. Even though I'm not running around bullying people, nothing weird. It was still a thing of, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And it's like, nah, I don't know what you're saying. You didn't say a word. You're just, yeah. And it's just like, you're doing stuff like that. And so for Teddy, I had to look it up. I don't know if it was Central or Northwestern. He went to Northwestern.
Yeah.
So he's from the city. He's from the area where he sees this. I'm pretty sure he known people when he was younger that passed away for street stuff, guys that passed away while he was in the league off street stuff. and they just doing street stuff, or guys that's locked up doing street stuff, guys that he knew from school. And so seeing those things and being around those things and knowing that there's much more to life than portraying an image. I don't know what he saw. I don't know what he encountered, but I greatly appreciate the message. We don't need to do this as a people. It's so often in the NFL, and in the summertime, dudes be getting arrested, gun charge, reckless driving, weed in the car, domestic violence,
sexual assault. Yeah.
The summertime for NFL players, it is just, I mean, and it's mainly brothers.
Yes.
And so we get ourselves in these scenarios, and it's honestly it is off-putting for me as well. So I'm glad somebody that has a voice, I'm glad that somebody that people look up to actually, had the testicular fortitude to say such a thing, and call out his peers. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm reminded of a conversation that we have had many times where we talk about how, at least for me, I often sit down and I question what Black culture what really is Black culture. What does that mean? I don't know what that, to this day, I'm not quite sure I know what that means. And the reason why I don't know what it means is because we have made our culture synonymous with music and athletics. So, and the reason why I bring that up is because I think that the root of this is in that. Like, I spent a good at least 15 years of my life in a constant state of cognitive dissonance. Like there was a chunk of my life, at least 15 years, where I was walking in a state of cognitive dissonance at all times. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for about 15 years, I experienced cognitive dissonance constantly because there was the core of me which said be a principled person who is considerate of others and cares about doing the right thing and thinks that it is a good thing to be successful in terms of education and doesn't think it's lame to speak properly and thinks that it's okay to be into things like, say, I don't know, video games and art, is at war. That individual is in a state of war with the other part of me who says I need to be doing what I see in music videos and hearing my music. And so that tumultuous war created this cognitive dissonance that I only was able to overcome after about 15 years of struggling with how do I reconcile this. I dealt with that for a long time. And it looks like, thankfully, Teddy Bridgewater is an individual who is able to also overcome said cognitive dissonance, because I'm pretty sure at various points throughout his youth, he was someone who probably thought the opposite of what he said in that statement, who probably felt like what I should be doing is what I see older guys who came before me, who may have come from my neighborhood or my environment, or the way that I see my peers in the league behaving, or the way that I see my favorite hip hop stars, the way that I see them behaving, or the things that I hear in my favorite songs. I should be doing that because that is what is my culture. It's a nonverbal acceptance of a form of behavior that I do think mostly affects, Black people and the Black population. And so I do agree. I am over it. I do think it's madness. Unfortunately, too many of us are susceptible to the mind control. And I do think that the more that people like Teddy Bridgewater speak out against it, the better we will be in terms of getting others to understand that there is a better way to go about doing things. A few videos ago, we talked about Russell Wilson and how he oftentimes receives disrespect within the Black population because he's perceived as something other than authentically Black. because we just believe that in order to be black, characteristically, you must act, dress, and talk a certain kind of way. When really we should just be people and just be human beings. And I would imagine that a person like Teddy Bridgewater probably now more than ever respects the perspective of an individual like Russell Wilson. And it's not to say that everybody should act like Russell Wilson, but we do need to get to a point where we are just respecting one another for being our own individual selves. And it's important that these pro athletes, because for better or for worse, unfortunately, it's either athletes or entertainers. That's where we take our cues from in terms of how the black culture is supposed to move. I wish it wasn't that way, but in 2022, it is still that way. So while it remains that way, it is helpful that we have enough people like Russell Wilson and Teddy Bridgewater talking like this to at least offset the notion that in order to be authentically black, you should be acting like somebody else. You know, I don't know who you want to throw in there. You know, people like Antonio Brown, for example, that's probably somebody who we shouldn't be emulating as people. But you probably have a fair amount of us who probably say free AB or free Deshaun Watson or whatever the case may be. And it's just like, you know, there's two sides to the same coin here. It's damaging to think that there's only one side of it. And so I'm happy, you know, appreciative that, you know, Teddy Bridgewater has reached a point in his life where he feels comfortable enough in his own skin to put that on his own Instagram for mass consumption.
Totally agree. And I'll speak on the the mind control aspect of this whole gangster stuff because I don't know what that is either. And but that's all that's portrayed right now, and it's not even just in music videos; it's the TV shows too.
Yeah.
When we watch any other group of people, they have TV shows and stuff like that. They got, I mean, there's witches, there's aliens, orcs. They're traveling out of space. They're traveling in the past. They're traveling in the future. Ours are, I've mentioned this before, it's cookouts. It's eating at Big Mama's house. It's selling drugs. Did I mention selling drugs? And so people, that's the only thing that is available for Black people to watch a show where there's, you know, they're people and they want to be engaged. And yeah, there's other TV shows where there's Black people and stuff like that, but those shows are family shows. They're this, they're that, but there's nothing that takes the brain or the mind into an area of like Inception or The Matrix or something that actually gets the people's wheels turning about reality and their reality and how they can have impact on the world versus all of these videos or these movies that just portray, hey, y'all, let's hang out. Let's have a good time. All right. Oh, yeah. Black people on a plane, but it's turned up. You know, it's got rims and all this other stuff. It's like, yo, who wrote these things? Yo, who's doing this?
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, it's a thing where now, so when entertainment actually became a thing and the ball was actually getting rolling and, you know, it's becoming popular. There's more TV shows, more channels and, you know, all this other stuff. The people who had control over what came on the air or what, yeah, I'll stick with TV that came on the air. You know, they didn't look like us and they told us what our people wanted.
Right.
And then they said, nah, y'all don't want to watch that. Y'all want to watch this stuff. And so then and then what would end up happening is, you know, new people are born. They don't know anything else from the past. And then they're watching the mind control and now they're being told how to behave. And so these young kids that are just listening to, you know, I don't like the term mumble rap, but we'll go with mumble rap because that's what everybody knows it as. And so when these young kids that didn't grow up listening to articulation, who didn't grow up listening to, you know, complex concepts, they're just hearing about the next jug, the next finesse, the next murder, You know what I'm saying? The next baby mama, the next whore. And that's where their mindset is. So when they're growing up, they think that this is all there is. And so what do you mean? This is just entertainment. Y'all used to listen to this. I'm listening to it, and now there's this space. I was so disappointed when I was seeing the young kids grow up still making rap music like us, like our generation did. But our generation had not product placement. It was a product placement artist, laboratory artists, people that had writers that portrayed an image that they slang cocaine, that they're the biggest boss in town, and that they do all of this crazy stuff. And so I really thought that the next generation wouldn't buy into that because they could see the older people and go, you really don't do that. But the younger kids are actually doing it. They're actually selling the drugs. They're actually doing the drugs. They're actually murdering the people and then rapping to tell about it and then get arrested. And then all their homeboys. It's a mess. And so all of this stuff comes from what people call entertainment. And so, so as soon as football practice over and you go watch Power, that's your problem right there.
Yeah.
Soon as your game's over or you're in practice, you're listening to NBA YoungBoy because he gets you riled up. That's your problem right there. And then so, of course, now these guys have this chip on their shoulder where, well, I ain't really hood enough. And just like how he said, well, now that you have the money to prove that you're this gangster guy, acting like Steven Jackson, showing up in some hood or whatever. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I'm checking in. Checking in? Bro, you're 40 plus.
Yeah.
Who are you checking in with? And what gang are you talking about? Like, what are you doing? And so when there's that type of stuff going on, it's a little too prevalent. And I really think it is a form of MK Ultra. It's a form of mind control. And that statements like Bridgewater's is actually like a splash of cold water, where if there was anybody on the fringe that needed a little confidence boost to not live that life anymore, I really feel like his statement actually would help them overcome that. So.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Black people are just uniquely affected by this because of the lack of a juxtaposition to something that's opposite that. It's weird, like, and you brought up the entertainment factor, and I think that it boils down to obviously a shaky foundational upbringing obviously makes you susceptible to images, and it makes you susceptible to messaging. So when you're already that susceptible to the messaging, when you don't have enough of a balance of the type of messages that you're exposed to, it kind of opens you up to a world of potential problems. Like I remember, and I've talked about this before, where I feel like in the entertainment space, sometimes, and to be honest, I don't watch a ton of TV, so maybe my knowledge isn't as much as it should be. But based on what I've seen, I feel like we've regressed, because I know, like you brought up the family shows. Well, at least back when we were coming up, there were an abundance of those. So like you had the abundance of the Family Matters and the My Wife and Kids and the In the Houses and the Hanging with the Mr. Coopers, Sister Smart Guy, all those shows, right? We can name them off. There was a whole bunch of them. And yeah, they were cookie cutter and corny. Yeah, they had a lot of white writers behind the scenes writing this stuff, but at least they portrayed a Black existence that was not Power, that was not Power Book 2, that wasn't, Empire. Even like, it just seems like even Black shows that portray a family unit, the context of it involves some sort of criminality or some kind of shakiness. Like some of these shows on BET, there's a show, I can't even think of the name of this show. It has Ernie Hudson in it, where it's a family show. So at least it portrays a Black family unit that is affluent. However, the context of the show involves some sort of criminality, some kind of nefarious behavior. There's something going on that's not on the up and up. And so there's just a lack of the opposition of that going around in the entertainment space. And so, yeah, it creates this environment of mind control.
Fucking
You
family
grounded-
business.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Can't
Yeah.
stand that show.
Yeah, that's it. I'm vaguely aware of it, but I've never watched an episode. But I know that it involves crime and
shenanigans.
Yeah, shenanigans. Yeah, I know it involves that. So we can't have a black fantasy show. Where's the black Game of Thrones or where's the black Star Trek Picard? All those shows may have one or two actors in there, but for the most part, it's mostly a non-black cast, and I think that speaks to what we culturally respond to in terms of the types of messages. So it's pretty cool that Teddy Bridgewater said what he said. It's like I said, man, I'm not trying to take anything away from the entertainers or the athletes. I just think that we would benefit from some balance. So, I think it's cool to turn on the TV and see a black, astrophysicist. I personally think that's kind of dope. And I'm not saying that I want to see nothing but black astrophysicists every time I stream something or watch TV. But if I can get 50-50 split or a 60-40 split, either way, I'll take that too. It just kind of seems like it's a 90-10 split. And, these kids, like you said, that are actually in the field doing this, that are exposed to this mind control, that don't hear enough people in Teddy Bridgewater's position saying what Teddy Bridgewater said, they're kind of shepherds to the flock. And, they're just going to emulate everything that they see and hear. And it uniquely affects our population because there isn't enough of the antithesis of that we can readily see on a regular enough basis to be able to say, oh, that's one way to do it, but here's another way to do it.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree. And just it's family business. My ex used to watch that, and I'm watching it, secondhand, and I'm sitting there looking like, well, got echo now? But I'm sitting there watching that, like, how ridiculous is this? Like, why is this even, like, what is this? Yeah. But it falls in line with Empire, Power, and those other shows that glorify this family gangster.
Yeah.
Crap. It's crap, bro. I cannot stand it. They sitting there talking about bricks and they're talking about flipping this and flipping. These people are not, it's so cringe, bro.
Yeah,
and so
it is cringe. Yeah.
And I can't stand it. It is completely aggravating. But the only reason why I know Empire came on tonight or Power came on tonight is while I'm on my feed, everybody's got a meme now about Power and what happened with blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. So, 50 Cent makes it, blah, blah, blah. Bro, please. Oh, well, he's got right. Oh, so you trying to, bro, please. And so just like I said, these young kids now, and 50's not young, but just follow the logic. These young kids now are doing exactly what these rappers were fantasizing about in the late 90s, early 2000s. And these kids are really doing it for real. I don't know how many RICOs that happened in the last 5 years where a rapper and his whole slew of people got thrown under the jail because they were actually participating in real criminal activity.
Yeah.
And so these people are actually doing these things. So then you get somebody like 50 Cent, who grew up in a situation where he idolized gangsters. He did that. And honestly, he's just genuinely writing stuff that he thinks our people want to watch. Because it's nothing different than what he wrote about and all this other stuff. So 50 really feels that way. So he's going to come out with a show talking about gangsters, drugs, jail.
Well, because that's his reality, yeah. Which is the problem, is that is what we have accepted as our reality more often than not. So yeah, he is completely thinking that he's being 50 creating these shows. When he develops these shows, the danger is that he feels genuinely in his heart that he's being authentic.
Yeah, no.
So the idea is I'm being authentic to my people and my culture with this entertainment.
Right.
And you can't tell him otherwise. And since that's the reality that he came from, the danger inherent in that is when you don't have enough presentations of entertainment that offer alternatives. alternatives.
Thank you. Yeah.
So it's not about saying that we can't have it. It's about saying there's a need for alternatives, and there isn't a great enough space for the alternatives. He completely thinks he's being authentic though, which is the dangerous part.
No, I agree. And so him coming out with his stuff again, it's just no different than a 40-year-old rapper still talking about bricks.
Yeah.
Or also, it's like, you cannot be serious, bro. But of course he is, because he's giving the people what they want. And so it's gotten to a point. So again, one more time, it's gotten to the point where back in the day we didn't control nothing, and we had other people telling us what our people want to watch. Those people grew up watching those things, and now they think that that's what our people want to watch.
Yeah.
And so it's a cycle of foolishness. And so 50, I admire his go get himness, the fact that he went from music and starting getting into film. Like, I appreciate all of that. I really highly recommend, and I would love to see him actually make some different type of content. I'm not going to rely on it, but I would like to see him actually make some different type of content that's not drug centric, that's not gangster centric, and not prison centric. But hey, it is what it is. But yeah, man, I'm glad that Teddy said something. I actually think that the progeniting behavior from these guys that's out here acting like they thugging is from television, music, and social media just repeats.
It completely reinforces it. Yeah, exactly. It exacerbates it. Yeah, completely agree. And that's one of the reasons why I appreciated, the show on HBO, Insecure, the show that Issa Rae created. Like, even though I felt as though at times they leaned too much into the niggas ain't shit narrative. I felt like they leaned into that too much, and obviously it was created by a woman, and the main character in the show is women, so it's a woman's perspective. So I can appreciate that. Even though I would like to see a show like that is told from the black male perspective, I nevertheless would always find myself appreciating that show, because at the very least it depicted everyday life for black people who are just out here trying to live and be decent human beings. All they did, like in that show, like I said, it got melodramatic at times, and it had its issues there were issues with it that I had, but overall, it was a show about black people living in LA, college educated, trying to climb the corporate ladder, be successful in life, and have successful relationships, which is what most human beings are about. So like, that's why I appreciated that show, because I don't see enough of that. And so even though it wasn't necessarily, it's not really a show. I never felt like that was a show for me, because I'm a man, and I felt like that show was mostly geared towards black women. Nevertheless, I was a champion for it because of those reasons. And anytime I see shows like that with a majority, if not all black cast, I'm gonna point that out, because I might not be a fan of the show per se, but I'm a fan of the imagery. And I'm a fan of what it symbolizes, I guess. And so, I always respected her for making that show for those reasons. Until we can get to a point where as a people we're not so beholden to entertainment and pro sports players, we're going to have to live with desiring to just see more of a balance and more alternative forms of entertainment to consume, because for better or for worse, as black people, we are still beholden to pro sports and entertainment. And within entertainment, you get the streaming shows and the movies and the music. It's all underneath that umbrella. So until we are beyond that, we're just going to have to say, can we get more people like Teddy Bridgewater who can speak up like that, I guess.
Totally agree, bro.
Yeah. All right. Well, appreciate everybody for tuning in, man. That's going to do it for our video for tonight. Another Conscious Approach video in the books, man. If you're watching this video on the YouTube channel, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, subscribe to the channel. We certainly appreciate the support. If you're watching this video on the Facebook page, like the Facebook page. Although, and I mentioned this in the previous video that we made, serious consideration is being made to shutting down Facebook, because Meta is actively engaging in content censorship, and I do not appreciate that. Hopefully, YouTube does not follow suit. But Facebook is crazy right now. You put one little word in there that the machine picks up as divisive, and they flag your whole video, and it doesn't go public. So, like, I'm done with Facebook. Facebook is I'm not going to go on a Facebook rant, but I'll just say I hate Facebook with a passion. And I am 2 seconds away from relinquishing myself from Facebook in its entirety. If it wasn't for the fact that I needed it for my job, I would probably get rid of it altogether. But be that as it may, it still exists. So if you're watching this video on the Facebook page, do your boy a solid. Hit the like button. Hit the share button. Follow me on Instagram at JVWins, JVWINS. Follow me on Twitter, on the Twit, all relevant social media platforms. Search me up, JVWINS. Continue to support logical content. Definitely appreciate the support.
Yep. And the name is Dogon SS. You can find me on Instagram at Dogon_SS, and on YouTube at Dogon SS. And I was on TikTok. I deleted my TikTok. Couldn't do it. And it was one day I opened it up and they had like a well-being tracker. And then I looked at how many hours I was on it for that week, and I was like, well-being tracker. Now, why would they have this? And so I'm looking at it and I said, 6 hours, huh? All right. 4 hours, huh? Got it. And I said, yeah, all right. So I was like, watch this. And then I went a whole week. And I opened the app twice. The second time was by accident. I was on there a total of like 5 minutes. And I said, yeah, this is great. And I took like another 3 days or so. And then I was like, you know what? I'm good enough to delete this mug.
Yeah.
So I got rid of TikTok. I might reopen it or whatever, but down the line. But I think I'm still able to get followed over there. So I brought all that up to say, too. It's Dogon_SS. All right. So find me on any social media platform. Still waiting for people to hit me up on DraftKings. All right. It's Dogon_SS over there too. But as I always say, man, don't be too high. Don't be too low, man. Keep it neutral. Keep it player. Keep it chill. The cheers and the jeers. So even if people are cheering you on, don't buy the hype. If people are jeering you on, right, and they're hating and stuff, don't give that any hype either. So believe in yourself, know who you are, stay neutral, keep it chill, and keep it even kill. Okay.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself, man. So until next time, another Conscious Approach video. Signing off. We'll catch y'all on the flip side. Appreciate you for watching. Peace.
Peace. Skirt.